Hello and welcome to Discovering Grayslake, unveiling the stories and people that make our town so unique. I'm your host, David Wool, and I'm thrilled to bring you this new podcast that explores fascinating stories and experiences of local business owners and community leaders, right here where we call home. Grayslake Rehabilitation Center is a community-based private practice physical therapy provider. Do you know they have 13 clinical providers with various levels of specialties, including orthopedics, sports, neurology, vestibular, geriatrics, pelvic floor, and aquatic? What? Did I just say they have a pool? Well, they do, and it's the largest indoor warm water pool in Lake County, featuring 2 underwater treadmills and swim currents. And recently added clinical treatment specialties, in layman's terms, shockwave. They have both radial and focus units that are the newest tool in regenerative medicine, available to everyone. They pride themselves on the most current and up-to-date specialized care to keep you moving. If you're looking for physical therapy, make sure to see our friends at Grayslake Rehabilitation. Wait. Grayslake has a record store? Are you ready to get into the groove? Well, I've got the perfect place for you with new and used vinyl, CDs, tapes, and more. At Andy's Records, they're not just about the hits. They're about the classics, the B-sides, the hidden gems, the vinyl vibes that make your heart skip a beat. For the record, Andy's is not your average music shop. It's a place where melodies meet memories. Andy's Records, because life sounds better with a little spin. And now Andy's Records is even bigger. Come check out their new spot at 16 North Whitney Street. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Discovering Grayslake. I am sitting here on the corner of Center Street and Atkinson at Agora Co-working. So Luke over here at Agora is awesome. If you guys are looking for a place to get out to have an office for just a couple hours, for a day, for a week, or something to call your home for your business, Luke would be happy to accommodate you. So reach out to them if those are any of your needs. So thank you to Agora for being a gracious sponsor. I have the opportunity to sit here with Shawn Vogel today. Shawn, how are you, buddy?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It was nice that we got to talk a little bit at one of the chamber events.
Yeah, it was a very good event.
It was a good event.
A lot of stuff the chamber's doing. You guys saw it in the State of the State there. It was a really nice event put on by a lot of good people.
I think that's what impressed me the most, too.
Yeah. And, it does, of course, they did a special recognition for Tim Rafferty, a longtime Grayslake person, Rudolph's Furniture, Charlie's. So really good to see him get recognized for all that hard work he did.
And he's such a nice guy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've been begging him to be on the show, and he's like, I need a month. I have stuff going on.
He would be a good one to get on the show.
He would. So, Tim, I'm coming for you, buddy. Okay, so you have a lot of history in Grayslake, right? Did you grow up here?
Born and raised here, yep.
Oh, me and you both.
Yeah. So, first lived in the apartments right behind the railroad tracks there on Center Street.
Okay.
But then by the time when I got to kindergarten, we were in Quail Creek, and my parents are still there today. And
really?
I live just up the road here on Atkinson Road, so almost to Washington Street.
Nice. So your parents are still in?
Yeah, they're still in town here. My
That's
grandparents
great.
are still in town here. So
I love it. So the only person I've got to talk to, I think, that are like you and me is we had Steve Lawrence in.
Okay, yeah.
And
Steve would be one other one.
Yeah, I was like, wow. Okay, so I think we're about the same age. Ish, probably. We don't divulge. We never ask a man's age, that's for sure. So tell me about, I like people that haven't lived here for a long time, and to learn a little bit like what was it like to grow up in Grayslake when you were here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when most of my years growing up was when I lived in Quail Creek, and it was in, of course, the 80s, 90s. And, a lot of the subdivisions, this place that we're in right now, some of these things weren't here. Estates of Eastlake right next door, that was under construction when I was in high school, right? So a lot of transition at the time. Some people of my parents' generation and older didn't necessarily like all that building that was going on. For I guess a young high school kid, it's kind of exciting. It was new, it was different, right? You saw some activity.
Absolutely.
The downtown isn't like it is today. We had some businesses. We had good businesses. We had, some of the staples were there. The, Churchill's were there. Feed store was there. Those types of businesses were there. But we had a pharmacy downtown. It's where Emails is now.
Yeah.
Right.
They had everything at the pharmacy too.
Yeah. Where Light the Lamp used to be an antique store. And I would actually go there sometimes after high school just to rummage around. It was more like a flea market than an antique store.
It really was.
Yeah. You go wander around over there. I mean, we're 10 North Lake is, that was, Jerry's Parkway Foods. That's where we always went for shopping. They had the butcher shop, nice, you knew everybody there. The old butcher paper in the windows with the sales prices with a big blue marker.
That's right.
That was all.
And
there.
I think we could get Glen Rock Pop there too.
Yes, you could get Glen Rock there, and that was always a treat in the summers because, I had a lot of family who worked in Waukegan, so they would be right past the bottle shop, the bottlery, whatever you're gonna call it, over there, and right on Glen Rock, you just go to this place, you pick up, a case of different colored sodas and bring them over to a Memorial Day picnic or something like that, right?
Yeah, and then we had to bring the bottles back too.
Yeah, to bring the bottles back. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite flavor of Glen Rock Pop? Because I can specifically remember it.
I want to say that I always gravitated towards red, which I think was cherry, and I think I think one of them wasn't a very common flavor, and I'm trying to remember which one that was. It might have been like one of the reds, or it might have been like a root beer. It was not a very common flavor, but you had your green, your lime, your grape, and so orange, and it was really just like drinking carbonated.
Yeah, I wonder
how
many of those would have been past regulation now for us to drink with the red dyes.
Red dye, yeah. But it was good stuff. I mean, well, at least I remember it as good stuff.
Right. I mean, we turned out fine.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So sorry, we were at Jerry.
Yeah, so downtown, yeah. So we had a number of pet stores down there. We had the formal wear store, which was one of the Porta businesses right next to the flower shop there.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was you had the flower shop, and then right next door was a little place that had that would do tuxedos and stuff for like homecomings and proms and stuff. Yeah, and then you had the True Value Hardware store downtown, which is now where you got a realtor there, and you got the Bill Mox building right next to it. That was all one building at one time.
Yeah.
So the town was different. It was definitely more small town. More you come into the town to get your everyday type.
Yeah, more of a necessity kind of thing.
Necessity thing, right? But then through high school, the town was changing. The downtown there was vacancies, and as a adolescent kid growing up, you didn't necessarily notice it as much because you went to the places you went to, but you didn't necessarily notice the buildings next to it were.
We weren't paying attention.
Right, exactly. What I do remember is the where the Electra restaurant used to be next to what is now Emil's, the old. It was a restaurant there as an alleyway now, but it still had the tile from the restaurant down there because the restaurant burned down, nothing ever really got cleaned up. And then, the village and the chamber and did the whole Centennial. They made that Centennial Park, right? They cleaned that all up. They dedicated it as part of the Centennial. Now Centennial Park is now moved to the corner at 201 Center Street,
right, which is beautiful.
Yeah, revamped that, expanded it. But the original plaque is there. The rededication plaque is there. But yeah, that was just a vacant piece of ground in the middle of downtown that was.
That was for a long time. That was vacant.
Yeah,
right.
And like I said, you could still see the tile on the ground from where the restaurant was, and so, it's where we are now is obviously I would say it's a lot better. We've got a vibrant downtown. It's now more restaurants, bars, service type business, but people go there, and we want people to come to our downtown. Absolutely. It's the one thing that I think draws people into Grayslake. We have a natural downtown. Other towns they create a village center or they have a downtown, but if it's not on a really busy main drag or a train line running right through the middle of it, it's kind of fabricated. If you just look around, they're trying to create that sense of place, that sense of community, but it's not quite the same as what we have here.
No, ours is more natural.
Yeah,
it's just right, and it's right there.
And so, the village board over the years has tried really hard to, preserve what that is, because when you lose it, you're not going to get it back.
Right.
If we completely change the buildings, if we kind of make it modern, you're not going to go back. Right. So, does that limit us sometimes? I think it does,
sure.
but it holds the character. When Mayor Taylor first got on when he was first elected mayor, he had done a symposium with a number of real estate agents and asked them about Grayslake and what could we do to improve Grayslake, and they kind of almost to a T, they all said, well, when we want to close a deal on Grayslake, we drive them through your downtown, and that's what makes people want to buy here. So that kind of has become the focal point over the last several years, decades really at this point. Is really trying to maintain that downtown, maintain its look, its feel, but keep it vibrant, because you have to keep people coming there. You have to give them a reason to visit. and we have lots of successful businesses there. And we're putting things around the town that draw people in. The museum's got a lot of great programs. We do a lot of those events downtown that the chamber puts on, or that even other organizations puts on, like what is it now? The Exchange Club. They have their event. They've got the Cars show that
the car show
is always great.
Yeah.
So there's other organizations that put stuff on down there. It's not just all about the village or the chamber. So we're trying to draw people in, and that I think is what helps keeps it vibrant.
Yeah, and the variety of the events. I mean, from wine walks to I mean, whether it's Grayslake Days or however.
The Heritage Center Foundation just had their beer pub crawl this past weekend.
We're taking a quick break just to say hello because everybody knows Nano, and Nano knows real estate. And actually, I believe that's the name of her Instagram page. So if you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or know somebody in the market for a home, contact Nano from Baird & Warner. She's a Grayslake girl helping out Grayslake people. How did I miss that?
Yeah, it was good. I kind of hesitate a little because it was a little small. I think it's something where we could get the word out more. Mm-hmm. But for the people who were there, it seemed like they're having a really good time. You sign up, you get a T-shirt, you play bingo along the way. So each stop you go, there's a bingo square, and you check it off on your page. And if you get a bingo, you can submit it for a gift card.
Nice.
And then along the way, there's historical facts on the bingo sheet and at each location. So you have the ability to learn a little bit about the business or the building, and then other things about Grayslake along the way.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really good history. Even the stuff I'm reading on the Heritage page and everything else about where the building came or what its history was. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of history that people who've been here a long time know. Like I was with my nephew and my brother-in-law on this pub crawl, and we were at Abel's was one of the stops, and I told both of them, that this used to be the laundromat.
Oh yeah.
This was the place.
I spent a lot of time.
Yeah, this was the place that like if we needed to get the winter bedding cleaned, after the end of the winter, you didn't do it in your home laundry. Those machines didn't handle it then. You had to take it to the laundromat.
That's right. Isn't the laundromat, we walked in, the laundromat was to the left and there's a dry cleaner to the right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the office was there too, maybe that's for the lady that was behind the window there. And,
that's right.
But she'd yell at the kids if they were getting too rambunctious,
Right, and a downtown laundromat. How would that go over right now?
It probably wouldn't.
Right. You think the board would approve that?
Well, it's from a use perspective, it's not probably too bad.
We could use it outside of the downtown. Yeah, there's valuable real estate.
Yeah, downtown we want to be something that's going to generate visits.
Yeah.
Right, and not that a laundromat doesn't generate visits. People have to go there for a reason, but you want something that can connect to either the events or to the other businesses or to something that's planned in the downtown.
Right. And maybe we should back up just a little bit to let people know because you've been a member of a bunch of different organizations. Yes. So what positions do you hold now, and what kind of give us a history of committees you've been on?
Sure, yeah. So through my time as a village trustee, I've been on probably the longest one I had been serving on was the Economic Development Commission.
Yeah.
I was on that. I got on that in 2005 and was there all the way through 2021. And so that's my longest one, and that's probably also my favorite commission to have been on. Also spent a couple years on our Planning and Zoning Board as its chairman. I also, when we first launched the Heritage Center, so after we built the museum and we created our partnership with the Historical Society, we created a committee to kind of bridge that partnership between the village and the Historical Society, and that was the Heritage Center Committee. So I was its first chairman for probably close to 10 years.
Holy smokes!
Trying to help navigate what is the museum and the Heritage Center now, in terms of how we do programming and how we get the exhibits planned and everything else. So did that. Also had the ability to serve on a lot of infrastructure projects or committees. Was for 4 years I was the alternate director for Grayslake for the Joint Action Water Agency. That's the utility that delivers our Lake Michigan water here to Grayslake. So each town it's JAWA short. Each town that's part of JAWA has a main director, usually the mayor, and then there's an alternate director, usually a trustee. So for 4 years I got to do that and went to many meetings. And that was during a time where Jawa was expanding to include communities to our north, like Lindenhurst, Lake Villa, and to our west, like Wakanda, Volo, So, and those towns are now in, and Jawa's looking to actually gain more customers even further west. So we're in negotiations with some towns right now to see if that's a viable alternative. So was able to really work with that, and then I've done a number of transportation things. So early on in my trustee career between 2005 2009, there was a countywide transportation alliance meeting that was held at CLC, and the purpose of that was to look at the county holistically and say what projects make sense. And I guess that's some of the context there. This was after they had done an advisory referendum in the early 2000s there, mid 2000s, on 53. And we always know what the results of a 53 survey are, right? So, right? So that's not going to go into the details there. But so this was after that, right? And so they're like, okay, so what do we do? And we looked at a number of maps. Here's the things that the state controls. Here's things that the county controls. And we prioritized the list of road projects. And it was really good to see because, each town could have advocated only for what affects their town. But it was a good group of people because we all could see countywide these are key linkages. One of them that I remember was a high priority on the list that I in Grayslake supported, through my representation there, was the widening of Milwaukee Avenue just north of Buckley Road there. We're neck down right by the Forest Preserve. Now that's 4 lanes, right?
Absolutely.
That was a key program. And then also some of the expansion that we saw later on in the 2010s, the expansion of 45 and 120 around what's the old fairgrounds. Those were all priority projects that we talked about way back in 2007 or whatever that was.
Right.
So that was really fun to get into as a young trustee, really trying to feel like I'm making an impact not just to Grayslake but to the broader community at large.
For sure.
And then also transportation related. So after that symposium or that Transportation Alliance meeting, not too long after that they formed what was called the Route 120 Corridor Planning Council, the CPC, and that was around 2009. And I was an alternate member there. The mayor was the primary, and that was really looking at what can we do with 120, right? What can we do with 120? And so we came up with a number of plans, a number of options, right? Both in conjunction with what could have been 53 and also independently.
Right.
And that eventually became the county's Blue Ribbon Commission on Route 53. That the recommendations there were carried over into that next planning process.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah, so it was really good, and of course it was dealing with 53 in a way, but so it generated a lot of interest in some people who were not so keen on the idea. But I think by and large the group recommended a set of recommendations for future consideration. And like I said, the Blue Ribbon Council later, which I was not on, took up some of those things and tried to run with it until that kind of fizzled away too. So
yeah, that must have been hard because I know how much work, and I don't know how much work, but I know a lot of stuff went into 53 and all the planning for it, and then it just
and it got to a point where we actually were getting buy-in from some of the longtime opponents to it, but then as things do, political winds change and so sentiments change, right? And now the discussion is, okay, do you keep it open space? Do you turn it over to IDNR? What do you do with it, right? So, I think it's pretty much as good as dead at this point.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean to say that what is 120 doesn't need work.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things I'm very happy that the village continues to do is we continue to push improvements to existing 120.
Right.
Those are still needed regardless of any potential bypass question or off the kind of roundabout way of 120. Those are still needed today because you can just look at 120 today. And so the village has worked with other villages through the corridor from the western edge of Gurney all the way out to McHenry, and we've got all of the towns lined up with, here is a road character plan, here is the priority intersections or stretches of road that need to be done to alleviate the problems, and we keep feeding that to IDOT, and we're getting some traction on that. which is good. Road projects, however, take forever.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. So the one that I have a question for you for it, because I don't know what's going on. I don't know if you have anything to do with it. So the 120 and 83.
So there's a number of things that are being worked on. I could kind of say it in kind of in parallel.
Okay.
So the state will be widening 120 kind of west of Almond Road almost to the 83 intersection. So by City Chevrolet there. So there is going to be a widening plan that's going to take that 2-lane road and expand it.
Okay.
In the existing right of way. When you get to the intersection, there's the possibility of the grade separation, which means 120 will go under the railroad tracks. Right. So there's the possibility of that. That you can also though expand 120 on the existing right of way as it kind of is. Right. So. But really, I think the village, we're trying to advocate for that grade separation. Currently we've got the project at what essentially is Atkinson Road 13783 being done right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at where the new road's going in, you'll notice that it's further away from the tracks. So that will eventually extend north to 120, and the existing intersection will move further away from the tracks.
Okay.
Right. Just to help make that intersection safer, to have more distance between the tracks and the cars stopped at the intersection. So that will happen. But then what happens after that in terms of the 120 piece, east to west, is still being worked on. And like I said, the village is advocating for working on the grade separation. And I'm an engineer by trade, so some of the stuff I kind of get into.
Right.
So when you look at the topography over there, if you look at where I forget the name, but the car restoration place that used to be the old liquor store and donut shop.
Right.
When you
That's how I remember.
Yeah, when you look at where it sits relation to the road, you realize that it's down low. So you can actually take the existing 120 and you can bring it down to that level, and you'll be under the tracks without having to really disrupt the right-of-way on either side of it. Because the road is built up to come to the tracks.
Yes.
So you just kind of help push it down.
Yeah, because when you cross there, that it is pretty low.
Yeah, that's very low over there. Yeah. So you've got room to naturally grade down. Now, on the east side, it'll have to start a little bit sooner because the land is higher there, so it's got to gradually come down. So the village has helped study that. Like I said, we've given that information to IDOT, and kudos to our state elected representatives. Melinda Bush helped get some of the preliminary earmark funding for that, and now Representative Dias is also helping with that. So. It's good that we've got some Grayslake people who have been advocating for Grayslake in terms of this particular project.
Amen. And speaking of those intersections, I from growing up here, before, the intersection what is it called? Ivanhoe? Well, 83 turns, anybody that's driving past the garbage dump coming up to 120. I know many people that lost their lives there.
Yeah, so that intersection is going away.
Okay.
So the project that's being worked on right now. So you take Atkinson Road here south, and and to be just the context, that piece south of 122, existing 137, that was 20 years in the making. Between the time we got the funding from the earmark from the federal government, the time construction was done was like 20 years.
Are you kidding?
That's how long road projects take.
Holy smokes!
And that's just like about a mile stretch of road.
Right, and that was one of the best things that's been done. I mean, I live on Atkinson Road, so just going over to 137 is a breeze now.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot safer as well.
Yeah, so it had always been contemplated that where Atkinson Road meets 137, you would cross the tracks and be on 83. So that's what's going in right now. So for those listening, if you really want to take the tour, the best thing to do is drive past the dump going north towards 137, on 83, and you'll see the new road already being built. You'll see the road is curving back towards the tracks. So you continue to go straight today, but where you see that curve, that road north of that will be vacated. It'll be stubbed, become a cul-de-sac on either side of the tracks.
Okay.
And so that intersection that's there today at that extreme angle will not exist anymore. And it'll be down the road on more or less on 137 across from Atkinson. There'll be a perfectly square, perpendicular, lighted intersection there.
Wow.
And that's been years in the making too.
Right. So when do you think that'll be done?
Well,
any idea?
Construction's going really well. I think pieces of that will be open at the end of the summer, early fall.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's so funny to look back at all these intersections, all these lights from growing up here forever.
Yeah,
You look back and go, they do change, obviously because we've gotten a heck of a lot more cars coming through and a lot more traffic and a lot of people driving through our town as well.
Yeah.
And the train tracks haven't helped anything. That throws the monkey wrench in everything, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, look at the projects to the north that have really helped, right? Rollins Road was the first.
Beautiful.
Right, county project. Washington Street, county project.
Right.
120 would have to be a state project because 120 and 83 are both state roads. But you got the county who really stepped up to really help with that east-west flow of their county roads. And Washington was a key one because they really wanted to make Washington like kind of the main thoroughfare between the eastern part of the county and the western part of the county. And they wanted it to be, by and large, unobstructed. Right. So this was one of the last pieces to do that.
Wow. Just when you say that, I remember sitting at the railroad tracks on Washington by the train station over there and just waiting for the trains to go by like that. But that was a huge improvement.
Right.
Yes.
And also just, because so downtown Grayslake's still affected by the trains, right? We know we've got the trains that come through. It's a commuter waiting for a freight or vice versa. So sometimes they'll block the intersection. So, trains are not municipal issues, but that's affecting our town locally. So we kind of continue to push our federal elected officials to work with the trains to either do some double tracking or to do something. So, and we've getting some movement on that. Again, the trains are private entities, so you can't really force them to do things. But there's opportunities for some double tracking, especially north of town. And if we're successful at that, then blockage through the center of town would be greatly reduced.
Yeah,
so.
That's great. And it's funny that because everybody bitches about the trains and the train horns and whatever, and a lot of people say, well, how long is an episode of the podcast, Dave? And I go, it's about as long as the Grayslake train.
Okay.
And they're like, that might be too long.
Yes.
So, but you can turn this episode on and you can listen while you watch the train go by.
Right,
So,
right.
But those things are being worked on, which is great. Yeah. So, trustee for over 16 years.
Yeah. I'm in my fifth term. So it's. It's still a learning experience because there's many different I'll call them problems, but situations that come up that hey, we have not necessarily experienced this one before, and that you have to kind of deal with. We've had wind inversions, we've had rain events, and I just have to give a testament to the board I'm on and the boards previous to us and our engineers and our staff, because we had a rain event in 2017, and yeah, there were some places that flooded, that took on water. By and large, the system worked wonderfully. And that's planning. That's planning all the way from the concept of a subdivision or a development to, through the building and construction and making sure everything's going to flow right. And we've generally taken the approach here in Grayslake is upsize where you can, right? Because it incrementally doesn't cost a lot to make the pipe bigger, because you got the ground open anyway, right? You go one size up, but your capacity increases much more when you can do that. So we've been able to do that, and that's served us well on the water delivery side. That's how we built our system with coming into Jawa, as we've oversized for the time. They were called oversized, but they're right sized now. That's how we can bring in like an Alter project. We can bring in Medline, and we can bring in some of those big developments down on the Central Range, is because we have the flow capacity that they need to operate. We don't have to go in and upgrade the pipes. They're already the size they need.
So those decisions that were made a long time ago,
they predate me, so I can't take credit for it.
But those open up everything, because without that, we wouldn't get those.
But that's one of the things I always one thing I remember when I'm a trustee and I'm making decisions. I am making a decision for today, but I'm also making a decision for the town years from now, right? Yes. And so sometimes the today decision, if it was only today, I might do something differently. But when you say, well, it's got to last 20, 30, 50 years.
Right. You have to be a visionary in what you're doing. And the small thinkers are probably the ones that have the complaints or maybe they don't see the big picture.
But by and large, if you get a chance to talk to them, they'll get it. Yeah. They still may not agree with the decision in the here and now, but they'll get it. They'll understand, okay, there's a longer vision, there's a long game that we're trying to also accommodate here.
Right. Well, I tip my hat to all of you folks that do this stuff, because you need to make big decisions, and looking forward to the future of Grayslake to make it better. Mm-hmm. And I know there's always naysayers no matter what we do in our lives, but I always say, well, those people can't step in the position, and if you want to get involved, then get involved, right?
Right.
And if they're educated enough to know why those decisions are being made, then it kind of squashes.
Yeah, Grayslake a fairly in tune community. When I've talked to people and people come to me, they generally have an idea. They may have a particular issue of theirs, but you can generally work with them on it, or talk through it, and generally you at least leave with at least understanding,
Right.
So that's another testament to our community. It's a great community.
It is, and you know what? You see everything around, and other people have laughed at me from friends of other towns I have. They like, you're doing this whole thing, like you guys talk about your town like it's like oh, there's other towns that do great stuff. I'm like, all right, but yeah. Do you ever hang out in Grayslake? Whoa, we hang out in Grayslake all the time. We come down and we do all this, and we come to the parks, we come to the parades, we come to everything. So people come for the fireworks, they come for the bands, they come for all the Grayslake events that happen. So, and you were talking about how realtors, try to sell homes and stuff. I was talking to a realtor friend, it won't be named, but said, when you're right on the brink of selling that house, it's wintertime, the lights are up, you wait till the sun goes down and we drive them downtown and they suddenly sign a contract for a house because they see how beautiful it is and how cool it is.
Yeah, I mean, this year, the last several years, we've been putting more of those up, and I think this year's number was somewhere between 210 and 213,000. It's incredible, right? And it makes all the difference. And last year, at the end of last winter, we left the lights on the street lamps, right? And that'd been a common suggestion we've gotten is leave the lights up all year round, and we kind of decided to this street lights are one thing because they're fixed, they're poles. The trees become a problem because they grow leaves, so then you don't see the lights. Right. And then if you got to do maintenance, you're working around the leaves and everything else. So the compromise was, let's just put them on the light poles, and that still looked great. We got lots of compliments. And now this time of the year, we still got no leaves on the trees. So for another couple of weeks, the lights on the trees will be up, but they'll still have to slowly come down over the next couple of weeks as we get into
I don't want to be on the team taking those lights down. I have problems wrapping the Christmas lights in my house.
Well, we have a really good contractor that does that for us. So
that's good.
He knows how to do it very efficiently.
Yeah, and you know what? If we had him up all year, you wouldn't appreciate it as much as when you come downtown in the wintertime.
True.
Yeah.
Right. Now that when the light switch gets flipped on the tree lighting night, the day after Thanksgiving, it's always a spectacular sight.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
The dark's taken hold and those lights go on, and it just lights up the whole town, literally. Right. So it's amazing. It's amazing.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'm looking through some other stuff. So the one thing that struck me on a couple things you're looking at. So I think what do you call it? Is it the Cornerstone?
Cornerstone. Yep.
Yeah. Because I forget how many years ago I was working with Bill Cornett and someone else for the economic development thing, and we're doing some drone videos out there. Was that the
partnership?
Yes.
The partnership. Yeah, Bill was on our partnership for a while. Yeah.
The coolest thing was standing out there doing drone shots and surveying the land to see what everything is before the other building was there.
Sure.
And looking at how much land there is.
640 acres.
640 acres.
Right.
That's enormous. Because is that the part where at that point 53 coming through would have ended probably around.
That's where it would have kind of done its Y.
Yeah.
And it would have taken, going west, it would have eventually connected with the Route 12 right away into Wisconsin.
Right.
And going east, it would have been on the 120 right away going into 94.
Wow.
So there would have been like a split there.
So what's going on out there right now?
On the west?
Yeah.
Or just Cornerstone?
Just Cornerstone.
So yeah, Medline's in, and fifth largest distribution center in the world, I think it is.
Which is great. Yeah. We have it in our town.
Right, and it's interesting because professionally, I various magazines on manufacturing and whatnot, and it was actually in one of the magazines about automation of warehouse material flow. Right, about how some of the technologies that they put in there. It was just really cool to see in a national publication, Medline in Grayslake, Illinois.
Isn't that cool?
It was great to see.
That's awesome. That's when you're like, we're doing something right.
Right, exactly.
We have this taken care of.
Yeah, so the infrastructure down there is now pretty much all done. The water system's in, the sewer system's in, and really those things are more than just Cornerstone. Those also help create system redundancy. So we've now got what's called the South Loop done. So there's two feeds basically into Prairie Crossing, instead of now just one, because it now can route all the way through. So we're really protecting ourselves against anything catastrophic that might happen. We've got various ways to serve the town, more than one way to do that. Same with our sanitary sewers, same kind of thing. So really the infrastructure helps not just Cornerstone, but really helps the town as a whole, just complete, make it complete. There's a number of, very, very early on, and I can't say too much, but there's a number of businesses who are looking to locate down there now that all that stuff's in place.
Yeah.
It's as they say, I guess, shovel ready, right? The infrastructure's there, the roads are there, the power's there.
It's a little bit easier to attract big companies to come.
So there's a number of people who've been, looking around, and we quite haven't landed that next one after Medline, but we've been in the finalists, like top 2 or top 3 a couple of times. And they make decisions for whatever business decisions they need to make. But certainly it wasn't because of our ability to provide land and good services. So it was other factors that came into that. So one will happen eventually.
Right. Well, listening to you talk, it makes me appreciate that I don't need to make these decisions, first of all, and how much I think the average resident is probably oblivious to the things that are going on and things to do to help our town.
I think I think you're right, yeah. And it's kind of purposeful that Cornerstone's where it's at. As we look at talking back about the downtown and what makes Grayslake. There's two parts of Grayslake, and right around Peterson Road, or halfway between that and 120 is kind of like that dividing line. So the south end of town, that's where all the economic development is going to go. That's where Medline and other types of business, light industry, is going to go, and that's going to help really support the tax base. And that allows us then to keep the old portion of Grayslake, just that, the old portion of Grayslake, the residential portion, the tighter knit feel, the close proximity with the paths and the bike lanes and all that stuff that connect us together, keeping the downtown small, keeping it a destination place without it getting all the traffic or all the other businesses that those, like a Medline might bring in terms of truck traffic and everything else. So it's two separate parts of the same town, but set up so that can all flourish to be economic, and this can all be flourished to be what we kind of call like hometown Grayslake.
Yeah, and it's cool, and by design.
Right.
And
so some of it kind of happened, but once we start seeing the pieces come together, it's like, okay, we can make this delineation very logically, and we can focus down here for the development piece of it, and leave hometown Grayslake.
Because some people don't even go out that way.
Right. There are many people who don't know that is Grayslake down there. And Grayslake is, there's obviously different parts of Grayslake. There's Grayslake the village, there's Grayslake the zip code, there's Grayslake the schools, right? And most of Cornerstone is not in the Grayslake school system. Some of it is in 127, but unfortunately none of it's in 46. But it's in Fremont, most of it. But we have good relations with those districts in 127 and the Fremont ones for the development that's going on down there, right? There's other opportunities in 46 that's more on the hometown side, but we've got opportunities in the 46 to also expand our commercial tax base and help alleviate some of the residential burden on the 46 residents, right? So we are always looking for those opportunities, and that's a lot of what we did on Economic Development Commission. When I was there, we put together, put out 2 different plans on how to attract businesses and try to get to that level of success, and both of them, we've worked those plans and they've led to good things. I mean, one of the earlier plans, we were trying to recruit second businesses. People who small businesses or small maybe franchises who could open a second location here in Grayslake. One of note is what's now called Twisted Burger, but that was Bulldogs. And Bulldogs was originally in Wakanda. Right. So we were able to say, hey, we got this spot. It's we had some market data that said this type of cuisine, if you will, is needed,
right?
And so they opened their second business, right?
And compared to their location in Wakanda, it made sense for right where they're at. They're kind of used to, on a different scale.
It's similar in Wakanda. It's kind of more near the downtown area, right? So it was a very similar match. So we were, that was something we set out to do to try and attract businesses like that. We were able to get in some of the old that were unused buildings just north of downtown, just north of the fire station there, a couple of old factory buildings there. Well, we had got interest, and we were able to get sheet metal supply to come to town here. And for them, we help incentivize them by doing a sales tax rebate agreement. And it was, I believe, 10 years for 1% of the sales tax or whatever, or a certain dollar amount. And I think their business has been so successful that we won't need the 10 years to give them their money back.
That's great.
So that's it's been great. So it took a building that was just sitting there vacant, and get tax dollars out of it and sales tax dollars out of it, which helps just strengthen the community.
Yeah. I think when Steve Lawrence was in here too, it's something that I wasn't aware of, that we're one of the only communities that are like debt free.
Yes, yeah. For a community our size, I think at one point it was the only one, and now it might be one of two, but we've generally, it's not to say we've never borrowed money. Like when we put the water system in for Jawa, you can't come up with that money up front, so that was borrowing.
Right.
But I was on the board when we actually paid off those bonds, and we paid them off several years early. Right?
That's great.
Because we had been making sure that we were keeping up with our bond payments and paying ahead where we could. But we've always generally taken a pay-as-you-go approach. We have a really robust budgeting and forecasting scheme. We built in defenses so that if we have a recession, or we have storm events that require extra public works, that we've got those defenses always to have some cushion to make sure that we can still deliver the essential services, which of course are the water, the sewer, the police, public works type stuff, and still be able to do some nice things in terms of capital projects. So basically, we save up the money one year, we basically spend it the next year, so we don't have to borrow. We even try to do creative things. When we did the police expansion at the to expand the village hall to the properties to the south, we could have borrowed for that, but we were able to find within some fund balances, and we looked at some of our road resurfacing, and we realized that some of our resurfacing projections were aggressive, so we didn't have to do some resurfacing. So we were able to take that money and basically borrow against ourselves. We took it from one fund, paid for that, and then reimbursed the road resurfacing fund for a couple of years just to make it whole again.
Wow.
Just so we don't have to go out and borrow.
Right.
So
there's some smart people behind that.
Yeah, our village staff has been incredible, and but it's the staffs that they're the professionals. They do it day in and day out. But what I've always appreciated is that the board throughout the times, and even before me, and I think even after me, the board has always, it's like, here's the vision, we're going to stick with the vision. Yeah, there'll be tweaks and tinkers along the way, but the main thrust of the vision has been held true.
That's awesome.
And that's how you build a good, cohesive town.
Right. And besides them being intelligent and getting all this stuff done, we really have a solid group of people.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, even all the trustees now, it's great because I know on personal levels, and then you look at go, wow, these guys are really, that's why I enjoy the podcast, because I had no idea, and I think a lot of the public didn't know what a really does and how we bring it to people.
Yeah, it's always an interesting question to answer when people say, what does a trustee do? Right? You know,
what's the short answer for that?
Well, you know, I basically try to say we're essentially the legislative body of the village. You've got the mayor, who's kind of he's that executive, and then the board of trustees is more the legislative body. So we're the ones who are reviewing, vetting, approving ordinances, changes to the zoning, the budget, the finances, but it's a little less delineated at a village level, right? Because you got the mayor, who's got a lot of power, if you will, right? You know, and so he can set a lot of tone and direction. But we're here as we're entrusted to the people. That's where the right trustee, the word,
right.
to find it fiscally responsibility, make sure we got critical services provided, that we've got good land use, some good land use planning, that we stick to those plans, right? So that we aren't harming neighbors because of something that's being developed next door, that kind of thing. So that's really what we're charged to do.
Wow. It just reminds me of how good all of our people in here, from the trustees to the Chamber of Commerce, that I've learned so much about the Chamber, of all the great things that they do to make all of these great things happen.
Yeah, I've been volunteering for the Chamber now for many years. It's once I became a trustee and you realize the amount of work that they have to do to put on festivals, I've always been one who wants to help. So I've helped set things up or take things down or try to make sure I'm supporting those events. Get out there. Just make sure that they know that it's appreciated. When I get a chance at a at a board meeting, to thank the volunteers, to thank the chamber for the events they put on, or any group that puts on an event in our downtown. It's always good to give them kind of that recognition from the dais.
Absolutely. And, folks, a great opportunity to sponsor events and to volunteer, because we can never have enough volunteers. These things don't magically happen. They take a lot of teamwork and a lot of personal time for people to get out there. But the satisfaction of being out there and seeing an awesome event is really good, and I think more people need to do that. We're going to pause for 1 second as we time's flying today.
All right.
So... and I know you've listened to a couple podcasts.
Yes, I have.
So,
is this the question?
Yeah, we're going to do the
All
Grayslake Hot Seat.
Okay.
It's time for the Grayslake Hot Seat. The Grayslake Hot Seat today is brought to you by Premier Chiropractic. Dr. John, conveniently located in historical downtown Grayslake. Premier Chiropractic offers you a full range of chiropractic care. John is dedicated to treating people within our community and showing them the benefit of great, convenient, affordable chiropractic care. So if you're looking to get straightened out, go see Dr. John at Premier Chiropractic. Now for the Grayslake Hot Seat.
All right, so let's see, because I'd like to bounce around here. I know you've probably listened to a bunch of other stuff, so we're gonna start off with a couple fun ones.
Okay.
Name a celebrity that you've met.
So I actually met James Doohan, who played Scotty in Star Trek.
Awesome.
So he, when I was still at Milwaukee School of Engineering, that's where I went to college, he was given an honorary doctorate there. And then I think that following fall, I was at a Comic-Con convention and he was a speaker. And so I brought the student newspaper with his picture on it, and he signed it for me, and I have a picture of that with me standing next to him.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
so you like the Comic-Con stuff?
I haven't been in a long time, but I was always kind of into the science fiction and stuff as a kid, and I had friends who were in it too. So we got a room at the Rosemont Hotel there.
Nice, so you can do it. Did you thank him for all this technology that now actually came true with everything they did?
Well, I think there was something along those lines when he met it, because even then what we have now was not even then in the 90s, right?
Right.
Even 30 years later, we got a lot more of that stuff that you see in the shows every day.
Exactly. Thank you for FaceTime, Star
Right.
Trek.
Yes, right.
Exactly. So that we can do that.
Exactly.
We're waiting for some other things to happen. What was your first car you ever had?
One that I owned or one that I drove?
Whatever the first car you were allowed to drive.
So it would have been the kind of hand-me-down from my parents. It was a Chevy Cavalier wagon.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes, that probably went over good with the ladies.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That it had no weight, as I discovered on one slippery winter morning.
Oh, nice. Everybody's first car story is funny, because my first car I crashed. Okay. And how many other people I tell you, what did you do with your first car? Well, I crashed it like 2 months later, or something always bad happens. So parents, be careful.
Yes.
What is okay, so this is going to be a hard one for you, though. Your favorite Grayslake event?
Favorite Grayslake event? There are a lot of good ones, and the one I think I like the most, and it's just because of what it represents. It's probably Memorial Day.
Yes.
The parade is a nice, fun piece of it, but the ceremony afterwards,
it's amazing.
And it's something that I've actually been amazed how long I've been involved with some aspect of Memorial Day. As a Boy Scout, and growing up, the Scouts, and to this day they still do it. They put the flags at the graves of veterans, right? Both at Grayslake Cemetery and at Avon, and I have a picture of me on the front of the Grayslake Review putting flags on a grave. It helped that my dad was the photographer that day, but there I am on the cover doing that. But also even at the ceremony. So I found not too long ago an old program from I think like 1991, and I was the one leading the Pledge of Allegiance that year.
Really?
Yeah. Well, Marv Smith was the mayor, and he was the teacher at the high school, and I knew him from there, and he knew I was in Scouts, and it's like, I wouldn't say he asked me, but it was easy to get the gig. So
yeah, I think the Scouts are an underrated thing,
yeah.
Especially now that I think kids need more than ever to get out now. Are you involved in Scouts now?
I not as much as I used to be. The work, the village, those things those take a lot of time too. I mean, I get out camping a couple times a year. I do still help with the Memorial Day event. So I still, and every now and again I show up at a meeting. I go to their fundraisers. I try to keep involved because it's a good program. So anyway, to answer the question, Memorial Day is
good.
Yeah.
Good. And since we're talking about stuff like that, are you also involved with Knights of Columbus as well?
Yeah. So that's been more recent for me. But my grandfather, I didn't. It's kind of one of those things you don't necessarily realize about it. But he has been involved with the Knights of Columbus for over 50 years.
Wow.
And it's kind of coming into the pandemic. It's like just trying to say, well, I need more groups. I try to do something different. And so St. Gilbert's has a chapter, so I joined there. So it's been a couple years now. Again, another opportunity for me to volunteer. I can help at their fundraisers, their fish fries. They do the Tootsie Rolls a couple times a year.
Oh, yeah.
So just another way to give just back to the community through a really good organization.
Yeah, that's cool. Every time I hear something or I see Knights of Columbus or see the Exchange Club, I'm like, how many things do we have here that are just great, that are given back to the community?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot more than I think people realize. There's a lot of them.
Absolutely. And more opportunities, folks, to volunteer and
Yes.
become a member of one of these associations. All right. Hey, bartender, can I have a...
I'm a brandy guy, so it's usually, if it's not an old fashioned, it's a brandy and club soda.
Brandy and club soda. I'll have to try that.
I don't know. I think it's somewhere in my genes. There's Wisconsin or something.
Right. Apparently with both of those drinks. Let's see here. Okay, so you've listened to a couple podcasts. What's your favorite one you've heard so far? I like how I make you choose.
So everything's been informative, and it's interesting because I've listened to kind of some of the people I've known, and I need to branch out in some of the ones I don't know, which I think is one of your recommendations. But I listened to Elizabeth, but that was a great one, and it's actually just talking to Elizabeth. I have to say your first one, honestly, and the one with Pruitt was amazing.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
And you think someone, you think you've been around them, and then you realize just how much more backstory, how much more, like for him, is how much more effort that he put into the business than you might have realized. And I think that's really what this is all about, is really trying to really get to know people at a slightly more deeper level.
Yeah.
Right. And so that one was probably by far still my favorite. I mean, there's a lot of things I remember from that one that, just detail wise, it's because like, wow, so it's showing kind of, a good guy in our community.
Yeah. And I knew a little bit about him. I am pretty good friends with Mike. And then
Sure.
after hearing that stuff, I was like, wow. And it wasn't an accident that we started with Mike either.
Sure. No, of course. Well, it's interesting. Talk about a small world. So I was talking to my HR representative at work the other day, and I was telling her that I was going to do this podcast here, and she was talking about, oh yeah, my husband knows a lot of people in Grayslake, and it's like he went to schools with the Pruitts. I'm like, really?
Really? So everything just comes together.
Like, wow, it's like this is a real small world here.
You know what? I found out that it just keeps getting smaller and smaller. The bigger it gets, the smaller it gets for me.
Certainly.
It's a crazy thing. Do you have a nickname?
Well, when I was younger, I was called Red, not because I had red hair, but because I was obsessed with the color red. But I shouldn't say that anymore, but nobody calls me that.
So now when you see Shawn, you better call him Red.
No, most of my friends, I always get the formal nickname. I'm just Mr. Vogel to everybody.
Mr. Vogel.
Even my friends, yeah.
Really?
So, yeah.
Hey, that puts you in a power position as well.
I guess, yeah.
Yes, so you come across as authority then. So
I
that's
must.
good. And speaking of that, would the 12-year-old version of yourself think you're cool?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, 12-year-old might think might not meet their expectation. No, see, when I was 12, I figured I'd already be president or something. Oh. Right. So I think the 12-year-old, was like, oh, okay, he's elected.
He's on his way.
He's on his way.
Right.
Yeah, right. So it may not be there yet. And I'm not saying that's where I'm going, but it just so I think 12-year-old would be cool with it.
Do you have a hidden talent?
Not really. No. I never was good at sports. I mean, I did do music in grade school. I played the cornet. I never got really good at it. Yeah. I did good enough to be in the school, recitals, but I never. When I got to high school, I just kind of gave it up.
Yeah, so you didn't do sport or anything?
No,
just music,
I'm very flat-footed, and I'm not very quick in my reflexes.
And admitting that is a big thing.
Yes.
So if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a tough one.
I'm not really giving it to you, so you can.
No.
I wish I could grant that wish.
No, I understand it. Yeah. it's tough because each one comes with some way you can help others.
Sure.
Right. And it can use to drive positive change. And so it's hard to kind of pick one because that just means that everything else there's no other avenues. And I know I don't know. I don't know.
I won't put you on the spot. Good. You know what? I've asked that question 100 times, and I don't think I could answer it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure what it would be. A lot of people pick invisibility, though. I could use that part of my day, like just to have a break.
If selective invisibility would be great, but
right, just snap it on.
When you're trying to be an elected official, you kind of can't be invisible.
Yeah, you're kind of do the opposite of that, be in front of everybody.
And I'm not necessarily comfortable with being with lots of people. So
I'm getting that way. Tell me a place you'd like to travel that you've never been.
So there's probably lots of places that'd be really cool to go to, but I've been thinking lately, really, I'm being honest here too, I've been thinking lately that there's a lot of this country I haven't really seen. A couple years ago I went to the Gettysburg. It was great, right?
Been there.
But there's places out west, like I've never seen the Grand Canyon. Right, I've been to Vegas, and I guess I could have taken the day trip, but it was a work thing, so it's be hard to do. But
right.
It's like I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I've always thought about maybe doing one of those nice Western train rides, that goes through the various places, the mountains, and everything.
So cool.
So I'm thinking that it's gonna be someplace in America. It's a big country that I have seen very, very small part of.
All right, well, get on it.
I'm trying.
Get on it. Just get some time for yourself and go do it. Let's go with your highest score in bowling.
I think I cracked 200 once.
Did you?
Yeah.
See, I can't pick the bowlers out. Usually I can pick them out.
I took bowling lessons in 3rd and 4th grade, and then some of those small fundamentals stick with me, but my form will change between start to finish.
Right. I do better after a couple beers.
Well, that helps too. That does help too, right?
Right. Then you're not concentrating much. You're just having fun doing it. I bet you I know the answer to this one, but what's your favorite go-to karaoke song?
I don't do karaoke.
I was going to say. Okay, gun to your head. Have to do it. You have to sing a song karaoke. What would it be?
I could probably Take It Easy by the Eagles.
All right. See, we have an answer. And we're ending with this one. No, I have two more for you.
Okay.
So Mr. Vogel walks into the room in slow motion. What is the theme song playing as you walk in?
Oh, the theme song.
Yeah. This is like your walk-up song.
Oh, boy, that's an interesting one.
The 12-year-old version of yourself when you become president, when you're walking on the stage.
It would have been Hail to the Chief then. I mean, that's the thing, right?
Right, exactly.
But I don't think I can use that one right now.
Right. It's a hard one, though. That's a...
Yeah.
All right, we're finishing with, have you ever won an award? You have won several awards from all of your resume that I'm looking at.
So I've gotten academic awards. I think math awards, science awards. Professionally, I have a patent.
You have a patent on what?
So it was a group patent, but it was a design patent. So what we were doing is we were trying to find a hydraulic solution for a skid steer. I think it was a skid steer for a customer in somewhere in Asia. I think it was Korea. And we had a good design team there, and we had a lot of constraints. We had an existing vehicle. They wanted to add functionality to an existing vehicle, so we had to fit all of this stuff into basically a 18 by 18 by 18 space, and we were able to do it. And it was a novel concept, so we filed it, and we have a design patent for a hydraulic excavator control system.
See, that's awesome. How many people can say that?
I don't know.
I do not have a patent on anything, for sure.
There's many people who got more than I do, but that one was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
Well, you've done a lot for our community, and it seems like that is continuing. So I personally thank you for all the hard work you're doing.
Thank you.
And it's behind-the-scenes stuff that most people don't get to know. So I appreciate you sharing your stories, and I know that there's a lot of other things. So in closing, I want to make sure that we cover... is there anything else you'd like the people of Grayslake to know about you or any project working on or anything about our community you wanted to share?
Just that, I think Grayslake, we're always striving to improve ourselves. We have a I'm going to use a work term, but we've got a kind of a continuous improvement spirit, right?
We do.
We're not just satisfied with where we're at. We're looking for how we can make things better, and that comes from residents, that comes from trustees, that comes from what we see in other towns. When we give it a Grayslake flavor, right? The expansion of some open spaces in our central area of town and the village center. That's it's great amenities that people can use. Attracting businesses like we have Medline, and we've actually got a couple businesses that are going to be expanding in Grayslake. They've been successful here. They're going to be growing their footprint.
Awesome.
So it's there's a lot going on. It does move slow, right? Not everything that starts finishes, but a lot of things going on that we're working to help improve the town, and always encourage people that they've got ideas, if they want to know something, to contact me. You can get my information from the village website, or stop me on the streets or whatever. I'm pretty open to talk to people about the good things that we're doing here in Grayslake.
Yeah. Well, once again, I thank you for all your hard work.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and the teams that you lead and are part of, so it makes everything better. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, and I thank you for your time here.
All right.
So Grayslake, thank you so much for listening to another episode, because I know that dedicating an hour or maybe nowadays 2 hours a week to listen to our community, I really think helps bring us all together. So no matter what platform you're listening on, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple, whether it's YouTube, whatever listening device you're on, make sure to subscribe, because that way you'll get an alert every time a new episode comes out, which these days it'll be blowing up because we're doing the best we can to get as much content out there as we can. So thank you to all of our sponsors. And really, if you guys didn't listen, we wouldn't be doing this. So I appreciate each and every one of you. And as I say at the end all the time, I appreciate everybody out there, and do get out there and do one random act of kindness today. We never know what anybody's going through, whether it's our neighbor, a good friend. So if somebody's having a bad day, let's go out there and do something to lift everybody up, even if it's like the smallest thing, because kindness spreads like wildfire. So it just makes our community better, and I bet you'll feel better too. So thank you, Grayslake, for listening to another episode. Shawn, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you next Tuesday, everybody.